Hey everybody, how are you doing? It is Thursday night. Just got done reading with my kiddo. We finally finished our book, Star Wars: High Republic Into the Dark. I wonder how long he's gonna let me continue to read with him. He's 12. He's still cool with it. I still make the voices. All the characters have different voices, right? So I mean, nobody wants to listen to just monotone Justin. They want to hear the fun voices. Um, I've been reading to him since he was a little kid, and of course the stuff has matured as he's gotten older. Um, I don't know. I'm gonna keep reading with him as long as they'll let me. But I feel like my window for a lot of that stuff is quickly coming to a close, which makes me very sad. So I don't know that he'll sit and let me read the How to Train Your Dragon. We read all those books like 12 or something. It was really fun. Anyway, I digress. Let's talk about baseball cards. You want to talk about baseball cards? I want to talk about baseball cards. Let's talk about vintage baseball cards. I was watching James over at Elite Hunters Day showing off some sweet Mickey Mantles. They're awesome. I don't have any vintage Mickey Mantles, so I'm always jealous. Um, I follow a lot of baseball card channels and interact with a bunch of them. And there's a whole everybody collects differently. So there's like a subgroup of vintage collectors. And I've always been jealous because you guys have amazing stuff. Like Lou Rock and Dylan over at Double D's got an amazing collection. John over at 3D80s Kid has really cool stuff. And what I like about John's is that it's not just baseball. He's got a lot of non-sport stuff too that you hardly ever see. Orlando, Matt and Titus over at the Card Story, Stooks, another just amazing collection. And the list goes on. There's a ton of them. And they really got me interested in actually going after a vintage card. Caesar, another one. A Pepino Man, sorry. This is the first year I've tried to I started putting together a vintage set, and it's my 62s. I love baseball. I love the history of baseball. So vintage baseball cards make total sense to me. I love learning about Drew is another one. Jeez, I could go on all day. So sorry. Learning about these guys that I didn't necessarily grow up watching. I mean, I'm still putting together junk era sets that I started as a kid because I think it's one, I'm a completionist. I want to finish those projects, and two, I remember watching all those guys when I was a kid, and it's really fun for me to think when I was a kid and jumping up and down on hot bleachers in the summer, drinking cold Sprites out of the big plastic cups, eating ice cream out of the little plastic helmets. And I got to watch these guys in the ballpark, tried to score autographs and going to autograph shows. And mostly it's reminiscing about time I spent with my mom. And really, that's what it's all about to me. So I know Lou Rock was talking about collecting vintage and his experiences with his dad and his grandpa. And I think that's amazing. I don't have those exact experiences, but I do have very strong feelings about doing this kind of stuff with my mom. My mom could care less about sports, but she loved spending time with me, and I enjoyed it, and so it's something that we did together. I carried on the tradition a little bit with my little guy, and we go to opening day every year. It is our thing. Take off school, we go to opening day. It is a religious holiday in my family, and so that's what we do. So every year since he was in my wife's belly, we go to opening day, and of course we have a collage of pictures and something fun that we do together. So the question that was posed today is, why vintage? Why do you collect vintage? Well, I just started. And the reason I decided to start, so I guess I should backtrack a little bit. I've always liked vintage because I love the history of the game. Like those Ken Burns specials, they're amazing. I could watch those every day. I think they're wonderful. They're wonderfully done, and I just love the history of the game. I find the history of the ball players just so dang interesting, and a lot of the vintage ball players, especially, faced a plethora of challenges, and I've always had a special place in my heart. And special, like just huge amounts of respect for the guys who put their lives on hold and went overseas and did what you had to do, and then came back and then tried to pick up the pieces of your life, because after seeing the horrors of war, I don't know how you bounce back from that. But baseball was an escape for the country, and I think today it's still an escape for all the other stuff that we deal with and we're exposed to. Just a crazy world. But baseball has always been the same. Baseball's, 27 ounce. It is what it is. The names and the faces change, but the game has been the same. And so the game you watch today is essentially the same game that your dad watched, and that his dad watched, and that his dad watched. And the history, I think, is beautiful. I think it's beautiful. Of course, there have been some changes. I know you're like, well, Justin, this changed, and this changed, and this changed. Absolutely. I get it. But the basis, the core has always been the same. And so I think being able to make that connection with America's history and your family history is pretty special. I have not gotten into vintage until really this year, because frankly, I just thought it was too expensive. I was like, these cards are great, but they're so expensive. But now modern cards have gotten so expensive, and I'm like, well, I don't know. Do I want a blaster box full of Donruss, or do I want a handful of 1962 tops? Is vintage now the cheapest way to collect? It might be. Just regular old vintage cards seem to be cheaper than $45 blasters of 2024 Topps Chrome. It's crazy. The prices are crazy. And I will tell you, I'm very frustrated with it. But vintage, it's there. Now, it's harder to find great cards. Hey, this is like one of my only Babe Ruth cards. Have fun. Sorry, random. Where was I? I don't know. So, in short, I'm now collecting vintage in addition to still putting together my junk sets and still doing some modern. Let's just face it, I just enjoy the game. But vintage is new to me this year. Thanks to all of the peer pressure, not really peer pressure. It's just all you influencers who are showing me your great sets. And I'm like, man, those are so amazing. And the fact that Topps Fanatic is making it so expensive to collect cards. Why not try to put together a cool old vintage set? And some of these cards are in pretty rough condition. They have had a history. These have been around, and I'm okay with that. But learning about these guys, and I really like the old comics on the back. It's just fun. I mean, this goes back to an earlier era when these little comics, they taught you something, because the only thing you knew about these guys is what you read in the paper, and it was usually regional. Or you only really heard about the big names. And so some of these guys nobody had ever heard of them before. Unlike today, when you can fire up the old interwebs and everything's there. So, Dave, Adjust Your Average Geeks gave this one to me. Thanks, buddy. See, I mark everything. I appreciate it. It's very nice of you. And that's it. So, yeah, vintage is one of my new... and the Card Wolf gave me this one. I almost said the old CW gave me this one. Gave me an old Gaylord Perry. Isn't that cool? Thank you, CW. But I love these. I think it's wonderful. So I love vintage because I love baseball. And I love the history of the baseball. And these cards are just the embodiment of the history of the game. It's just something that you can hold in your hands and you can see and you can feel. It's like the real history right here. And, you know, think about the world when these cards came out. I think it's wonderful. That's it in a nutshell. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble for a little bit and looking at some of my 62s. I love these cards. They're so wonderful. I have a long way to go till I make the set, but it'll be fun building it. So that's it. I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Talk to you later. Bye.